In the depths of human history, far beyond the reach of memory and the boundaries of written records, there existed a lineage of people whose story has been buried beneath ice, stone, and time. We call them the Denisovans, but what we know of them comes from only the faintest whispers, traces of DNA, fragments of bone, and enigmatic clues scattered across the mountains of Siberia and the islands of Southeast Asia. Yet there are theories growing bolder with every discovery that these people were more than a primitive offshoot of humanity, that they may have built something, an advanced civilization, long before the rise of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or even humanity's own sense of civilization itself. This is the story of the Denisovan Super-Civilization, a story erased from history, but perhaps not entirely lost. It began with a finger bone found deep in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. In 2008, a small piece of bone, so unremarkable at first glance, was pulled from the cold dust of Denisova Cave. The scientists who examined it could not have imagined that it belonged to an entirely unknown branch of the human family tree. When its DNA was sequenced, it revealed something extraordinary. Neither Homo sapiens nor Neanderthal, but something else, something older, something unique. The world suddenly had a new relative, the Denisovan. What followed was an explosion of curiosity. How far had these people spread? Who were they? What did they know, and what did they build? DNA evidence suggested they were not confined to Siberia. Traces of their genome appeared in people from Tibet, Australia, New Guinea, and the islands of Southeast Asia. Their genes lived on in modern humans, influencing the way some populations adapt to high altitudes and resist disease. This was no small, isolated tribe. The Denisovans had roamed a vast stretch of the ancient world, from the icy north to the humid equatorial islands. That scale alone spoke of organization, of migration, and perhaps of culture. But then came the mysteries. Archaeological finds that didn't quite fit the accepted human timeline began to draw new scrutiny. Megalithic structures built with precision and purpose, tools made with a level of sophistication inconsistent with the supposed capabilities of early humans, and astronomical alignments in stone that hinted at knowledge far ahead of its time. Across the globe, from the towering stones of Baalbek to the enigmatic terraces of Gunung Padang in Indonesia, voices rose asking whether these were the works of forgotten hands. Could the Denisovans, whose genes still course through modern veins, have been the architects of these ancient marvels? Mainstream science resists the notion of a prehistoric super-civilization, yet the further we look into the shadows of deep time, the more the line between myth and history begins to blur. Legends from nearly every culture tell of ancient beings, giants, sky people, gods who came before humanity, who taught agriculture, architecture, and the secrets of the stars. What if these myths are memories encoded in story and symbol of the Denisovans and their advanced knowledge? What if they were the civilizers of the ancient world? The evidence we do have suggests that Denisovans were highly adaptable. Genetic studies reveal that they possess traits allowing them to thrive at extreme altitudes. The people of Tibet, for instance, carry a Denisovan gene that lets them live and work in oxygen, thin air where most humans would struggle to breathe. This gene did not come from chance. It came from millennia of adaptation, the mark of a people deeply in tune with the natural world. Adaptation implies observation. Observation implies understanding, and understanding is the root of civilization. If they were so advanced in their understanding of the environment, might they have mastered technologies, perhaps not electronic or mechanical in our sense, but natural technologies of stone, sound, and energy? Some researchers point to acoustic properties of ancient megalithic sites, suggesting that their builders understood the power of resonance, using sound waves to move massive stones or to create sacred spaces that altered consciousness. Could this knowledge have originated with the Denisovans, passed down through oral tradition, diluted through the ages until it became myth? The more we learn, the more questions emerge. Consider the site of Gunung Padang, a pyramid-like hill in Indonesia that, when analyzed with ground-penetrating radar, appears to contain man-made chambers and layered structures beneath the surface. Carbon dating suggests parts of it could be over 20,000 years old, far older than any accepted civilization. Some have proposed that this site, located in a region where Denisovan DNA remains prominent in the modern population, may be a surviving relic of their civilization or one influenced by their descendants. If true, it would rewrite everything we know about human history. There are also the puzzling artifacts, carved stones, tools, and symbols that appear too sophisticated for their supposed age. In Siberia's Denisova cave itself, scientists found a bracelet made of green chlorite, drilled with a hole so smooth it could only have been made by a high-speed rotary tool. This artifact dates back tens of thousands of years, long before Homo sapiens were believed to possess such skill. It raises a profound question. How did a supposedly primitive species create an object requiring such precision? The Denisovan bracelet could be the fingerprint of a forgotten age of technology. Across continents, ancient constructions share inexplicable similarities. Gigantic stone blocks fitted together without mortar, resistant to earthquakes, weather, and time. Astronomical alignments so exact they could only have been achieved through careful observation over generations. Legends that tell of a golden age before a cataclysm wiped everything away. Could these similarities point to a shared origin, a legacy left behind by the Denisovans or their cultural heirs? Imagine the world they inhabited. The Ice Age was in full command. Great ice sheets blanketed the north, sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, and vast land bridges connected continents. The world map of 100 years ago looked very different from today. Regions now submerged beneath the wave, Sundal, and in Southeast Asia, Doggerland between Britain and Europe, the Bering Land Bridge, were fertile and habitable. If the Denisovans built civilizations there, those cities now lie under the ocean, buried and forgotten. Only in myth and scattered relics do their memories remain. Then came the floods. Around 12,000 years ago, the last great glacial melt brought sea levels rising dramatically, drowning coastlines and erasing untold histories. Myths of a global deluge echo from every culture. The flood of Noah, the story of Atlantis, the tales of Manu, Deucalion, and the gods of Sumer who punished humanity with water. Could these myths preserve the memory of the cataclysm that ended the Denisovan Super-Civilization? Did their survivors scatter, taking fragments of their knowledge with them, sowing the seeds of civilization anew among Homo sapiens? What if humanity's sudden rise around 10,000 years ago, the abrupt birth of agriculture, architecture, and astronomy, was not spontaneous but inherited? Perhaps it was a renaissance, not a beginning. The Denisovans, older and wiser, could have taught early humans the principles of construction, mathematics, and cosmology before disappearing into extinction or assimilation. In that light, the rise of Sumer, Egypt, and the Indus Valley becomes not the dawn of civilization, but the rebirth of one. Yet, history has a habit of hiding what it cannot explain. Archaeology, constrained by the need for evidence that survives, often dismisses anomalies that do not fit the conventional timeline. Sites older than accepted human civilization are labeled as natural formations, artifacts are misclassified, and oral traditions are called myths. But as technology advances, through satellite imaging, DNA sequencing, and underwater exploration, pieces of the lost world begin to reemerge. Genetic evidence continues to surprise us. Modern humans in Melanesia and Papua New Guinea carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. That is not a trace, it is a heritage. These people's ancestors must have lived side by side with Denisovans, perhaps even within their societies. And if interbreeding occurred, it implies social interaction, not hostility, a mingling of ideas and knowledge. Could it be that these hybrid populations were the bridge between the Denisovan civilization and our own? We are only beginning to understand how advanced the Denisovans might have been. Some scientists speculate they possessed symbolic thought and language as complex as ours. Their toolmaking was advanced, their jewelry intricate, and their trade networks possibly vast. The fact that Denisovan DNA is found so far apart suggests not only travel but perhaps navigation, whether by land or sea. The ancient world may have been far more connected than we imagine. When we gaze at the great megaliths that dot our planet, the towering stones of Stonehenge, the precision blocks of Sacsayhuaman, the underground labyrinths of Turkey's Derinkuyu, we see the fingerprints of genius. Mainstream history attributes these works to early Homo sapiens, but what if some of these achievements were not ours at all? What if they were remnants of an earlier humanity, one that mastered the earth long before us? The concept of an erased civilization is uncomfortable because it implies that history is not a steady climb from ignorance to enlightenment, but a cycle of rise and fall, knowledge gained and lost. If the Denisovans indeed reached heights of understanding, their downfall would serve as a warning. Cataclysm, whether by climate, cosmic impact, or their own hubris, may have wiped their world clean, leaving us to rebuild from their ashes. There are tantalizing connections between Denisovan traits and ancient myths of superhuman beings. Many traditions speak of ancient giants, tall and powerful beings who walked the earth before the flood. Fossil evidence suggests that Denisovans were indeed larger and stronger than modern humans. Could these legends of giants be distorted memories of encounters with Denisovans? Could they have been remembered not as ancestors, but as gods? Across time, humanity's deepest instinct has been to remember. We carve myths to protect memories that words alone cannot carry. If the Denisovans gave birth to our earliest civilizations, then their memory survives in those myths, in the divine teachers who descended from the mountains, in the star beings who shared knowledge, in the lost golden ages of legend. Each story may be a fragment of truth refracted through time. Perhaps the Denisovans did not vanish entirely. Their genes, after all, still breathe in us. Their adaptability, their strength, and their knowledge echo in our biology. Maybe every act of human curiosity, the urge to build, to explore, to reach for the stars, is their legacy speaking through us. Perhaps we are their continuation, the children of a forgotten civilization, determined to remember its own lost greatness. As science pushes forward, new discoveries seem to whisper from the shadows. A fragment of a skull here, a tooth there, ancient footprints in volcanic ash. Each find deepens the mystery rather than solving it. The Denisovans seem to have been everywhere and nowhere, present but invisible, a ghost race haunting the corridors of our DNA. Their story challenges our very notion of what it means to be human. What if our entire understanding of prehistory is only a glimpse of a vast, complex past we have barely begun to rediscover? The Denisovans could be the missing link not just in our biology, but in our civilization. The forgotten masters who built in stone, mapped the stars, and lived in harmony with forces we no longer understand. If we look closely at the world today, we still see their shadow. In the high mountain monasteries of Tibet, where monks chant beneath skies once ruled by the Denisovans. In the myths of the Pacific Islanders who speak of ancestral giants who came from the mountains, in the ruins of ancient temples aligned with the solstice sun, standing as if to remind us that time is not a straight line but a circle. Perhaps one day the ice and earth will yield the full truth. Perhaps an intact Denisovan site will be unearthed, revealing evidence of architecture, writing, or technology beyond our imagination. Or perhaps their cities now sleep beneath the ocean, waiting for the day when humanity is ready to remember them. Until then, their story remains a question, one written in the double helix of our DNA, in the myths of our ancestors, and in the stones that refuse to tell us how they were placed. The Denisovans may be gone, but their echo endures, whispering through the ages, reminding us that history is not what we think it is. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest secret of all is that we are not the first civilization to rise upon this earth. We are the descendants of one that fell, and in our endless quest for progress, We are merely rediscovering what they once knew. The Denisovan Super-Civilization, lost, erased, but perhaps not forgotten, may yet have the final word in the story of humankind.